The Antarctic, a land of mysteries buried under the eternal ice for centuries. For over 50 years, there have been frequent reports of strange pyramid-like structures at mysterious entrances deep within the eternal ice, as well as unusual flying objects in Antarctica. These unusual events recorded in the past have raised countless questions that are difficult to answer about the coldest and oldest land on Earth. Some have come to Antarctica and seen things they shouldn't have. It is clear that something is being concealed beneath the ice that we do not yet know. Could it be the remains of an ancient civilization that once flourished, a secret base of extraterrestrials, or a place where unimaginable research activities between humans and extraterrestrial beings are taking place? Let's explore the terrifying mysteries beneath the Antarctic ice. In November 1995, a U.S. Navy pilot named Brian and his crew were flying a C-130 aircraft in a low-altitude loop over the Mary Birdland area, located in the southern part of Antarctica. This was the location of 15 scientists working and researching, with the C-130 approaching the Antarctic base from another base, McMurdo, about a few hundred kilometers to the east. The reason for this mission was the mysterious disappearance of the scientists working there. Their job was to communicate with the McMurdo station daily and report research results, but for the past few days, no signals had been sent. All the scientists from various national research organizations had vanished, and their disappearance would have serious consequences. The area they were researching had extreme weather conditions, with no dangerous predators around. Therefore, it was almost impossible for them to have left the base due to an attack. Even if they went out for research, they could not survive more than an hour without protective gear. The aircraft flew in an increasingly smaller circle to ensure no area was overlooked while searching for the scientists. Despite the good weather and optimal visibility, no signs were found. Finally, the C-130 landed, and the rescue team was instructed to check the base. Normally, when a large, noisy object like a cargo plane lands, at least a few people would come out to observe, but this place appeared abandoned. The scientists had only been brought there about a week earlier. In the storage, there was enough food and water, even snacks, for over a month. Yet now, they had vanished without a trace, and there were no signs of looting or vandalism. The rescue team went to the control room to check the communication equipment. Strangely, everything was normal and stable. They even used the same equipment to report. However, no one was found, no bodies, and everything seemed perfectly fine with no signs of conflict. They had no clues about what to do next. The rescue team returned to the plane and headed back to the McMurdo base. Before leaving, the plane continued to circle with an increasingly wider radius to ensure nothing was missed. Antarctica is a dangerous place, where people disappear and lose their lives every year. No one is absolutely safe in such an extreme environment. While discussions were ongoing about how to search for the mysteriously missing scientists, they suddenly reappeared over a week later. The C-130 rescue plane was urgently called back to the Mary B base, where the scientists had just returned, sending out distress signals and screaming that they wanted to leave. What happened? Today, Antarctica is the most isolated place on Earth, with human research activities only having explored a very small portion of the continent. About 98% of the land remains unexplored, and no one knows what lies buried under the thick layers of ice. Despite the harsh conditions and limited access, new discoveries suggest clear signs of extraterrestrial high-tech activities and ancient civilizations that have yet to be uncovered. Recent satellite images show pyramid-like structures gradually emerging from the ice. It is believed that these pyramids are part of a global energy grid, similar to the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, and that over 90 million years ago, Antarctica was a lush, thriving region. There is no doubt about this. However, scientists have confirmed that this region has been frozen and unsuitable for life for the past 12 million years. So who built these pyramids? First, let's look at this. This is the Pinkerton map, drawn in 1818, where the position that should belong to Antarctica is completely blank, with no markings. This suggests that Antarctica was completely unknown at that time, and it didn't even exist on the Earth map for everyone. However, some even older maps accurately depict Antarctica's geographical location, showing that it was not the massive icy continent we know today, but rather a fertile and lush land, with plant life comparable to any other part of the world. Is this true? Here is a strange map dating back to the 16th century, which accurately redraws the coastline of Antarctica, showing it not covered in ice. It is difficult to explain how people could have known the exact location of this continent before they had modern measuring tools. Like many other ancient mysteries, it is believed that an ancient civilization once existed in Antarctica. The existence of prehistoric civilization in Antarctica has drawn the attention of historians, especially after World War II. This theory may be supported by medieval maps and various studies by geologists and physicists. In 1929, an ancient map was found drawn on the skin of an antelope, showing geographic locations vastly different from what we know today. The map's creator carefully described the northern coast of Africa, the southern part of South America, and the northern coast of Antarctica. This map is known as the Piri-Reis map. The Piri-Reis map is one of the most intriguing and mysterious artifacts in cartography. It is a world map drawn on antelope skin paper by the Ottoman admiral and mapmaker Piri-Reis in 1513. This map amazed people with its accuracy and detail, especially concerning areas that were largely unexplored or unknown at the time. Thus, this map has been the subject of much debate over nearly a century. As mentioned, it depicts Antarctica before it was officially discovered. Therefore, many speculate that this map might reveal ancient secrets of lost civilizations on our planet. Vase, also known as Piri-Reis, was an excellent naval officer and a skilled cartographer of the Ottoman Empire. He was born around 1465 or 1470 in Gallipoli, a port city on the Dardanelles Strait. He began his seafaring life at a young age, initially as a privateer supported by the government, essentially a pirate with official papers, and later became part of the Ottoman Navy, eventually rising to the rank of admiral. Vase participated in numerous military campaigns and naval battles, such as the conquest of Egypt in 1517 and the siege of Rhodes in 1522. He also had a keen interest in geography and cartography, collecting maps and charts from various sources, including Europe, Arabia, China, and India. He also gathered information from sailors, merchants, and travelers who had visited different parts of the world and used this information to compile his own maps and books on navigation and geography. In 1513, he completed his most famous work, the World Map, which he presented as a gift to Sultan Selim I, the 9th Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. This map was based on around 20 different sources, some of which were ancient, while others were modern. He claimed to have used a partial copy of a map drawn by Christopher Columbus, which is now lost, as well as maps by Portuguese, Spanish, Arab, and Indian cartographers. The map depicted South America accurately and in great detail and included notes in both Turkish and Ottoman Arabic. Sultan Selim I praised the map and stored it in the royal treasury for many years. However, it was eventually forgotten until it was rediscovered in 1929 in the Topkapi Palace Library in Istanbul. After its rediscovery, scholars and experts began to study the map, astonished by its quality and accuracy. What intrigued them most was how Admiral Piri could have mapped Antarctica accurately 300 years before it was officially discovered. They were also puzzled as to why the map depicted Antarctica at a time when it was not yet covered in ice. In 1949, an expedition of scientists from Britain and Sweden conducted surveys of the southernmost part of the continent. They confirmed, after drilling through 1.6 kilometers of ice, that the map's depiction of Queen Maud Land matched the actual seismic data with absolute precision. This proved that the coastline had been mapped before it was covered by ice. Interestingly, the Piri-Reis map was drawn using a method of geographic coordinate division based on both longitude and latitude. Historically, the first map of the Earth to use this method was drawn by John Harrison from England in 1761. This raises the question, did people know the Earth was spherical over 600 years ago? Mainstream science claims that Antarctica's ice sheet is around 1 million years old, and the northern part of the continent is depicted as it was before the ice covered it. It is conceivable that the map was drawn 1 million years ago, but this is difficult to explain since humans were not yet present. Could the Piri Reis map be the product of a civilization we have never known? In his book, Maps of the Ancient Oceans, published in 1979, Charles Wood speculated that the Piri Reis map was sourced from ancient maps created by the Minoans and Phoenicians, seafaring cultures with great cartographic knowledge. These maps were preserved in the libraries of Alexandria and Constantinople and were transferred to Europe after the Fourth Crusade in 1204. According to Wood, among these maps were depictions of South America, Antarctica, and the Southern Ocean. Remarkably, these maps depicted Antarctica before it was covered in ice. This raises the fascinating possibility that ancient civilizations could have accurately mapped Antarctica when it was free of ice. How could they measure so accurately on the map? From the story about the Piri Reis map, a hypothesis has been proposed that there were civilizations that disappeared along with highly advanced technology. In 1953, a naval officer sent this map to the U.S. Army Map Research Center to be measured and compared with modern maps. They concluded that this map is absolutely accurate and could only have been measured using satellite positioning methods. Therefore, the possibility exists that a civilization existed tens of thousands of years ago, living and developing to a high level before Antarctica was covered by thick ice layers. The question now is even more complex: where did they go? Personally, I don't find it complicated. They may still be there, deep under the cold Antarctic ice. In fact, there is still significant evidence showing that an ancient civilization once existed, and possibly still exists, in Antarctica. Indeed, Piri Reis is not the only strange map of Antarctica in history. In 1737, Philippe Bosch published a map bearing his name. Bosch, a geographer of the 18th century, created a map showing Antarctica very clearly and in great detail. However, there are some controversial aspects. First, Bosch's Antarctica consists of two separate landmasses surrounded by many detailed coastlines. But modern maps of Antarctica, after being explored by scientists, do not match what Philippe Bosch drew. Even the original name of the Bosch map is of interest. Philippe Bosch stated that it was necessary to accurately determine the location of this region on the world map, not just simply as the South Pole. Some sources translate the original title of the map, from French to English, as the topographic map of the southern lands between the Tropic of Capricorn and the South Pole, where great discoveries in 1739 would open a new era for the world. The ambiguity about the publication year has also led many to question the map. While most believe Philippe Bosch completed the map and made it public in 1737, the map itself is dated September 10, 1739, which coincides with the title he gave to the map. No one has yet explained the two-year discrepancy or its significance. Bosch is regarded as a pioneer in professional cartography at the beginning of the 18th century. He created a map that clearly divided different regions. At the same time, he opened a new direction for geological research, combining in-depth geological knowledge with information from explorers and missionaries of the time, and daily astronomical observations, to deduce the locations of various regions on Earth. Some of the maps produced were consistent with modern scientific findings, such as the existence of Alaska or the Bering Strait. However, his approach was very controversial within the academic community, as it was time-consuming, focusing too much on details and requiring complex methods of investigation that needed many resources and were often inefficient in cases with too little data. Furthermore, not all of Philippe's conclusions were correct. A prime example is his depiction of the Antarctic Ocean, which he placed in the center of the Earth's southern pole, but in fact, it does not exist. In reality, Philippe Bosch somehow managed to draw the precise topography of Antarctica from a time when many scientists believed this region was completely ice-covered. An even more interesting fact is that Bosch's map describes a frozen sea route at the Transantarctic mountain region, dividing the Antarctic continent into two distinct regions called West and East Antarctica. In the book Ancient Sea Maps published in 1966, Charo H. Wood, whom we just mentioned, noted that Philippe Bosch had gathered much mysterious data about a highly advanced civilization that once existed in Antarctica, possibly even linked to extraterrestrials with the ability to perceive the terrain to create these giant maps. Some scientists believe that Bosch's map was created with hints from ancient maps. However, the fact that Philippe Bosch accurately pinpointed the Canary Islands as well as the location of the submerged plateau near the Canary Islands is perplexing for researchers. This suggests that there must have been some kind of terrain survey data from the time before the glaciers melted and sea levels rose, allowing Bosch to successfully outline the Canary Islands. While Bosch 1.0 remains enigmatic, experts were surprised to discover version 2.0, with the appearance of French characters on Bosch's second map. Some speculate that Bosch may have been revisiting his theories about Antarctica's geography. It's likely that Philippe Bosch referred to old maps and data collected from explorers about the phenomenon of massive ice drifting in the southern hemisphere, from which he concluded that a distant continent existed in the south. Personally, I still hold the view that Antarctica was once not a frozen land like it is today, but was once home to a civilization, perhaps even more advanced than ours today. In fact, no one knows the exact structure under the thick ice layers of Antarctica from prehistoric times, so it's hard to say whether Bosch's map is truly accurate. Even the Piri-Reis map isn't necessarily entirely accurate. But today, we are not just searching to uncover the mysteries of ancient Antarctica. Returning to the story at the beginning of this video, the C-130 rescue team from BRI was mobilized to return to Mary Butland to pick up the scientists who had just come back. Upon arrival, they found that everyone had quickly packed up all the important items and rushed towards the plane, as if something would kill or torture them if they didn't leave immediately. The scientists boarded the plane in complete silence, not exchanging a single word, not even when Captain Doan asked what had happened. No one would speak. It was a 2-hour flight, and the silence was suffocating. When the C-130 landed at McMurdo, the scientists were informed that they would board another plane, but for some reason, they seemed unwilling to move. Someone had to board the plane, unbuckle their seatbelts, and guide each person off. These individuals had surely witnessed something traumatic and were severely suffering from PTSD. According to our current understanding, PTSD is a collection of reactions that can appear in people who have experienced or witnessed a distressing event that threatened their life or safety. This can include a serious accident, assault, sexual violence, war-related events, torture, or natural disasters like wildfires or floods. Most people who experience trauma will have post-trauma responses. However, for some, these responses do not subside after a few days or weeks, but continue and disrupt their lives. So, our scientists boarded the second plane, looking like ghosts, and then they disappeared from there. Their research equipment was placed in a large storage facility and locked up securely. The rescue team was instructed not to enter under any circumstances. All other equipment from the poles was quickly isolated and sealed until it could be transported elsewhere. At that time, no one knew that the equipment would be transferred to the Peterson Air Force Base in Ohio. If you're unfamiliar, Peterson Air Force Base is where many secret documents related to UFOs and evidence of UFO sightings have been stored since 1947. From 1947 to 1969, the BRI rescue team was called to the command office where two men in uniforms, recently arrived from Washington, D.C., warned the entire crew not to disclose the incident to anyone, including the scientists. None of the scientists were missing, there was no rescue mission, and nothing they had just experienced was true. The crew members were completely fine with this. This wasn't the first time they had been forced to remain silent. About 10 years ago, in the same room, a similar meeting had occurred with BRI. However, that meeting wasn't about equipment and people on the ground but about what the crew members had seen deep underground. In 2003, a Navy team was deployed from McMurdo to the Beardmore Glacier. According to the official report, they were on a routine reconnaissance mission, but in reality, it was an escort mission for scientists to gather additional research data and ensure their safety. The team leader, Spartan 1, made it clear to all members that this research was extremely important, and at all costs, even if it meant sacrificing the lives of the entire team, the scientists had to be protected. The escort team fully agreed. However, they felt this request was excessive. They believed these scientists were just one of many other scientists collecting data in Antarctica. This was true, but not enough. As they approached the landing site, they saw the top of a black octagonal structure emerging from the thick snow. The team guided the scientists to a massive door, dozens of meters high, adorned with strange symbols, some of which resembled star maps. Additionally, there was a triangle with two crossed diagonals at the center, a symbol found in many ancient cultures throughout history. Reporter Lynn the Mountain House, who had interviewed Spartan and other witnesses, showed them a picture of a coin found in Mexico City in 1993 that bore similar symbols. The door, dozens of meters high and a meter thick, opened very easily. As the team entered, the door closed, and everything fell into an eerie silence. The vastness of the space made everything even more terrifying. Spartan and his team took a long time to traverse the corridor, where the walls emitted a soft yet eerie blue light. The walls also contained numerous special characters, similar to hieroglyphics. When the scientists asked the guide how large the space was, the response was 2.7 million square meters. The entire space was enormous, buried deep beneath the eternal ice, and it was only one of many such structures scattered across Antarctica. At that time, the massive door was the only entry point into the site, but years later, other entryways were found, and the only way to access them was via large submarines traveling beneath the ice. The submarine could travel deep into the Antarctic, beyond the upper layers, into areas that were not under human control. Spartan's team had been tasked with keeping silent about the site, and now some people were sitting here, listening to threats about the consequences of revealing unverified information, including BRI. The mission to rescue 15 BRI scientists was not the first strange mission Brian had participated in. Since 1980, he and his team had made countless trips to Antarctica, usually to supply research stations and transport goods and personnel. Until one day, a special mission changed everything. Brian received word that his crew was preparing to urgently transport an injured scientist from Davis Station, across from McMurdo. After medical staff from McMurdo were mobilized, they received orders to pass through the mountains of Antarctica. This approach was highly unusual. Brian and his crew flew directly over a highly secretive air sampling station, which had a no-fly zone above it. The aircraft violated this zone, putting everyone's lives at serious risk. However, perhaps what Brian remembered most wasn't the danger of the flight, but what he saw when flying over a crack in the ice, over 90 meters wide, exposed on the ice near the air sampling station. Clearly, there had been a lot of activity in this area over the years. Brian and his crew couldn't explain why there was such a massive ice hole in this place. After safely returning the injured person to McMurdo, the crew was once again summoned to the command office, where they were questioned by an officer they had never seen before. The officer asked them about their decision to violate the no-fly zone, and of course, the crew explained that they had no other choice. If they had taken another route, the patient would have died. The officer slowly walked back and forth to think and finally decided not to pursue any charges, provided that BRI's team would remain under strict supervision to ensure no secrets were revealed. Although Brian never signed an NDA, he was uncomfortable with the situation. He had carried out hundreds of missions in Antarctica, seeing UFOs and other strange phenomena so frequently that it seemed like just another day. Brian agreed with the officer and didn't think much of the giant ice hole until a few months later, when Brian overheard some people talking about the mysterious air sampling station and the massive ice hole during a mission. They discussed how they had been there to meet some special guests. Curiously, he approached them and asked about the guests. According to the descriptions, these visitors weren't human. They also revealed that the giant ice hole was an entrance to a secret base where humans were collaborating with extraterrestrials on a special project. More specifically, humans were learning everything they could from them, and sometimes, human scientists had to serve as test subjects for the research. Could it be that the scientists rescued from Mary Butland had also been used as test subjects? If this is true, it's not hard to imagine the horrific things they must have endured. Perhaps this is why they screamed and yearned to return home as soon as they had the chance. There are countless strange stories about Antarctica, and it's impossible to cover them all in a brief video. If you want to learn more about one of the stories today or any other stories, feel free to leave a comment below this video. I know that stories about Antarctica are often vague and lack the necessary authenticity. However, as long as the Earth still exists, humanity will continue to explore and discover new things, which is never too much for anyone. I sincerely thank all the viewers for their support and companionship in today's video. Please like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with the latest videos. Goodbye, and I look forward to seeing you in the next videos. Wishing everyone a wonderful day with their family.